Hello, Eagles Nation. Vincent Foast here, and welcome to a preseason Game 3 review Eagles chat. Where, yes, folks, the Eagles preseason is officially over, and it went by faster than the speed of the typical everyday commuter that drives in the left lane of 95. It was that fast. It was that crazy. But before we get into the main topics of this past preseason game, make sure to like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel, as well as following us on Instagram at Chat Eagles, where you can find daily updates on your birds. You can also find our Instagram in the description of this Eagles Chat video. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. First, starting off with the defense, specifically the cornerback situation for the Birds. So, unlike past Eagles chats, I'm not going to have one specific guy up here on the main board because I want to focus on the cornerback situation as a whole. And those of you who watched yesterday's game, well, you probably noticed one specific thing about the cornerback situation. That is, well, Adoree Jackson did not play yesterday. And a matter of fact, yes, he was a healthy scratch. And what does a healthy scratch usually mean in preseason? Well, usually it points to you have the position. And of course, with that, a lot of people were texting me like crazy yesterday. Well, what's going to happen to Jakorian Bennett? What's going to happen with him? Did he not get it? Are you telling me Adoree Jackson got it over Bennett? Yeah, that's what I was hearing a lot of yesterday. And this is something where, again, seeing how Jakorian Bennett played yesterday, I think yesterday's game was another symbol on why he should start over Adoree Jackson and get the position over Jackson. But I want to put Adoree Jackson to the side for a second, and I want to talk about something else that I think a lot of fans kind of forgot about, and that is, well, the situation with a guy named Eli Ricks. And when I talk about Ricks, this is something where the Eagles, specifically Vic Fangio, it is still kind of an area where they don't know what they're going to get out of Eli Ricks from week to week. So this is why the whole thing with Jakorian Bennett is still very much important. Even though if Adoree Jackson gets it over Jakorian Bennett, the whole thing with Eli Ricks and the Eagles not really knowing what they're going to get from him from week to week, it's still extremely important that Bennett is productive and is, still saying, hey, I'm here to work and I'm going to get a position no matter what. So this is something where, hey, let's look at how Bennett performed yesterday. And overall, yes, he didn't make any plays that were, crazy huge or something that you're going to write home about, but he still really showed up yesterday and was sticking to his guys in a great way, basically like glue. And yes, some people were telling me, well, yeah, Bennett, he let up some catches. He was, kind of letting up catches here and there. And this is something where I said, well, if you look at those catches, let's just say they weren't exactly comfortable for the New York offense to make. And, overall, this is something where he was creating in a big way contested catches were something where let's just say New York didn't exactly feel comfortable. And this was something where he's kind of proving the quarterbacks that you're not going to have any type of easy throw in my direction. If you make the throw, congratulations. You just barely got it off. But this is something where even the passes that are completed against Bennett, they're extremely tight. And, looking overall at his game yesterday, he broke up a deep ball. He was able to, in general, deliver two big tackles underneath. So he was still showing up. He still had some good pass deflections, pass blocks. So this is something where Bennett is still showing up in a big way. And I think, again, the way he performed yesterday was just another reason on why he should get it over Adoree Jackson. But again, the way things are looking, if Adoree Jackson does get it over Bennett, again, remember, the Eagles have a lot of decision-making to do coming up in this next week. This is something where even though if he doesn't get it over Jackson, we are still looking at that Eli Ricks situation where they still don't know what they're going to get out of him from week to week, and still a big area where Bennett can continue to prove himself. I mean, he still ended up yesterday with 5 tackles, and he still was able to show what he was about. He had 33 snaps. Of course, now Eli Ricks yesterday had 10 more snaps played than Bennett at 43 snaps, but this is still something where, the Bennett area, the whole situation surrounding Jakorian Bennett is still very much alive, especially after yesterday and still looking into the future. He's not going away just yet. I don't think it's anything to panic about. A lot of Eagles fans were saying, they better not put Jackson over him, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens in this upcoming week. That's all I can say. And, after a performance like yesterday, again, I still believe heavily that he should start over Jackson. And again, our poll that we made on our Eagles Chat Instagram had 100% of the vote go to Bennett over the other guys in the poll, which were McWilliams, Kelly Ringo, and Adoree Jackson, of course, Jakorian Bennett, who got 100% of the vote for who Eagles fans would rather have in that position. So let's just see what happens, shall we? But of course, you had other guys like McWilliams who played almost the entire game yesterday. He had 65 snaps, And I think, unfortunately, now it's safe to say that he is no real threat to start to the other guys who are, fighting for that position. McWilliams at this time, I mean, he is a guy that's probably going to be on your practice squad, but unfortunately at this time, I don't think he's really going to have that much more of an impact in terms of this cornerback race. And then, of course, you had other guys who performed well yesterday in the cornerback area, being Nickerson, who had an impressive interception, who was able to make a great cut to pick that one off. What a play, especially as the Jets and Eagles were kind of going back and forth in that part of the game with interceptions. But he is also another guy who's not likely going to, get into a starting position. But here's the good thing. He's not likely to be pursued by other teams if indeed cut. So the Eagles can probably safely get him back on the practice squad if necessary as well. And then, of course, you had guys like Cine, who also got an interception, but the only unfortunate thing for him was he ended up on crutches after the game. So, yeah, with the Eagles cornerback, foundation at this time, I really think there are guys there for the future. And this is something where, again, if you get a good amount of guys hurt, which, we've seen that in the past with the Eagles in that specific position, if you do get, certain guy hurt, can your foundation support that area of the team if necessary, or in an emergency situation if you have your big time starters get hurt? Like, for example, say if a guy like Quinyon Mitchell gets hurt, you don't want to be running around in the circle full panic, and you don't want that side of the field to be getting picked on every single time because the opposing team knows that that's a weak spot. So this is something where I think the Eagles are really starting to build up their foundation for the cornerback position. But again, to go back at the beginning, like with the Jacorian Bennett, that whole area, we'll just have to see how things develop. It's not confirmed that Adoree Jackson got it, even though he was a healthy scratch for yesterday's preseason game. We'll just have to see how things develop. Of course, knowing with Eli Ricks, Kelly Ringos seems like he may be pretty much out of it, of course, because he was injured as well. So this is something where the cornerback area, it may be finally starting to shape up as, again, like I said, around this time, usually it gets smaller. Well, with the Eagles, it's kind of still that same size it was from week one of the preseason. So we'll just have to see exactly what happens, how things develop, and how we go down the line with getting certain guys in the certain positions. And we'll just have to see how that whole area develops. But moving on next to our youth spotlight, as we had some guys that definitely have to be talked about. Now, don't get me wrong, these guys did make some good plays. Now, it's nothing, out of the ordinary or anything like that, but it's something that get these guys on the board. And the first one I have to mention right here is Mr. Antoine Powell Ryland, who is a rookie edge runner out of Virginia Tech and is someone who finally broke through for his first sack as he finished with 2 tackles and really looked explosive on the edge. And this is something, with the young guys, the Eagles are really looking for, especially with that edge position. This is something that you really are going to want to see. You want to see that explosiveness. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not going to be a starter, but this is still something where, again, what Howie Roseman is trying to develop, a good foundation for this team. That way this team is not a one and done, or they're not only good for a couple of seasons and they start to fall off the planet. This is something where you're seeing good things out of your younger guys. Another one, again, have to mention Lewis Cine, the safety, who was battling injuries, unfortunately, but was able to come up with a good diving interception. Now, of course, like we said originally, Cine was leaving on crutches after the game. So, unfortunately for him, he was, let's just say, not leaving with the best of luck, but he was still able to make a pretty good play, especially as he was having a pretty quiet preseason. Now, don't get me wrong, it was only a specific play, but it's still something to get him out in the eyes of the Eagles to really see how they can develop him down the line as well. So these are definitely the 2 guys that we had to put on the youth spotlight, and is something that hopefully we'll be seeing them as time moves on, as the Eagles franchise moves down the line, let's just say. But now moving on to a guy that, let's just say, didn't really deliver any promise, and that was Kyle McCord. So yesterday, it was Kyle McCord and Kyle McCord only. We didn't see anything out of Dorian Thompson-Robertson. And this is something where, looking at how Kyle McCord played yesterday, I mean, he had a 42.1 passer rating, a 43% completion rate. I mean, overall, wasn't anything, let's just say, that the Eagles front office and the Eagles coaching staff are kind of jumping out of their seats for. Let's just put it like this. And don't get me wrong, the wide receivers yesterday for the Birds, well, they weren't exactly helping, but this is still something where looking at your QB3 position, I still think after this preseason 3 game that no one has that position locked up yet. Dorian Thompson-Robertson definitely doesn't. Kyle McCord, yeah, after the performance yesterday, and that was a big chance for him, especially. I mean, it was set for you. That was your game. You played the whole entire game. That was your offense, and that was the performance that you delivered. Not exactly great. So he did go, like I said, it was a 43% completion rate, so 15 out of 35 for 136 yards, and he threw one interception, which when I saw that interception, I was kind of confused on why he threw it, especially since the cornerback was where that cornerback was in that area. I don't quite know why he kind of lofted that ball out there. So this was something where the decisions being made by Kyle McCord in clutch situations and in key situations, I don't necessarily like. Now, of course, we know he is a pocket quarterback. That's what he is. And he showed yesterday, especially at the NFL level, that he can't necessarily get away from these guys. Yes, I understand these defensive linemen, they're, way over 300 pounds in a lot of cases, around the high 300s, but these guys can still move. And this is something where maybe at other levels he may have been able to kind of get away from, but you're not going to do that in the NFL. And especially how Kyle McCord is and his mobility, not really the guy to be running away from the defensive line in the pocket. This is a guy that's known for stepping up and making the play, not necessarily escaping the pocket. So that was something that McCord got caught with a couple of times yesterday. And again, like I said, receivers again didn't necessarily help him. I mean, you had guys like Terrence Marshall. He had 5 catches. That was the most catches in your wide receiver area for yesterday's game. You also had guys like Elijah Cooks running around. John Mechie, who was able to get his first catch. That was something beautiful to see. Great to see him playing the sport once again. But again, overall, your receivers really weren't helping you a lot. So I guess if there was something that I can at least give Kyle McCord, I can at least say that. But overall, it wasn't something that, let's just say, it's not a performance that the coaching staff is going to be jumping out of their seat for. And I still think no guy has the QB3 position completely locked up, especially now that we're at the end of the preseason. You don't really have much confidence in that QB3 spot. So we'll just have to see how things develop as time moves on. But moving on to the rest of the offense and some more guys that I definitely have to highlight, and that is right here. We have a guy that definitely, let's just say, carried in a big way yesterday on the ground for the Birds, getting the only touchdown, and that is Montrell Johnson Jr., who had 46 snaps during yesterday's performance, and he carried for 15 times for 57 yards. So, yes, he played 46 snaps. He carried 15 times of that, 57 yards. He had, of course, the one touchdown. It was a 15-yard touchdown. So, this is something where seeing him being able to fly around the field was definitely great. Now, sometimes his mobility in between the slots given to him weren't exactly the greatest of things to see, but this is still a kid I think that you can really develop down the line, and something where you already have a great running back foundation, right? You have Saquon Barkley, obviously your starter, A.J. Dillon back there, Will Shipley, who's most likely going to be your RB2. And of course, you go down the line to these guys, and there's still something where, down the line when, say, possibly soon an RB3, because who knows how long A.J. Dillon's really going to be around here. This is something where, for some of these younger guys, as early as next season, they could really start to be in the spotlight. So this is a huge opportunity for guys like Montrell Johnson Jr., and he definitely, in my opinion, did not disappoint during yesterday's performance. That I can definitely tell you. But here's another guy that we definitely have to mention. Yes, he is a starter, folks, and he had one heck of a game yesterday. Jake Elliott showing up in key situations. He went 4 for 4 on his field goals. His long was 53 yards and was really performing at a very, very high level. Great to see this from the Big Four. Jake the Make, as it was said yesterday, as it was great to hear that on the broadcast, as well as the Eagles are now been posting that all over their platform. So hopefully Jake can continue to make great plays during the regular season. But let's just hope it doesn't come down to that main kick. But if it does come down to that main kick, for the Eagles to win a game in a key situation, let's just hope. And we know that Big Four will be able to get the job done. But of course, other guys being the punter, got to mention him as well. I don't have his face up here on the main board, but still got to mention him. Brandon Mann, who had a couple of great punts yesterday, a couple of great convincing punts at that as well. So the kicking game for the Eagles definitely showing up on a very, very talented side of things. So definitely great to see those guys doing well as we end off the preseason. But now, of course, moving into our final big time slide, that is, we have to mention some guys on the O line. And the guy that I really got to bring up right here is Drew Kendall, who played for 19 snaps, and that was all they needed to see. The Eagles then took him out of the game. So, Kendall, this whole entire preseason, really showing what he is about. And again, he played some center, he played some left guard again. So, they were kind of moving him around like they did last week. And this was something where, again, watching Kendall's ability to perform, his ability to develop, also the blocks that he did to, again, give Montrell Johnson Jr. a great opportunities as well. This was something really great to see, and a guy who has really developed and something that, probably is going to be right there, a backup for the Eagles down the line. So this is another one of those situations. If your offensive lineman, any of your starters get hurt, you don't want to be in a panic mode. And I think the way Drew Kendall has been performing, this is definitely a reliable guy that you can, let's just say, count on in key situations. So great to see him out there playing at a very, very high level. And, we'll hopefully won't see him that much down the line. Of course, since he's a backup, we don't want to see any of our main guys get hurt. But as long as he's there to back him up, hopefully we'll see him not be playing as much. We don't want to see him out there on the field in an emergency situation. We don't want guys like Landon Dickerson getting hurt, right? But we'll just have to see how this season plays out. Of course, there's always that threat, especially if an offensive lineman getting a little pull there, a little tear here and there. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens as the season goes on. But as always, great job by Drew Kendall on this past preseason game performance. But now, yes, folks, Week 1, that's the next game. I can't believe it when Dallas comes to town and the Birds get to raise the beautiful Super Bowl banner right up in front of their eyes, because God only knows they ain't going to see one, right? Thursday, September 4th, 8:20 p.m., Thursday Night Football. And yes, the first game of the entire NFL season for the entire league. Can't wait to see it. Going to be tuned in. It's going to be great. This whole area is going to be jumping like crazy to see Eagles football back in action once again at Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. That's all for me. And as always, go Birds. Have a good week, everyone. Enjoy the summer while you still have it, as Eagles football is coming around the corner. In just a matter of moments, it will be here before you know it. September 4th can't arrive any faster. Have a good one.